Hello and welcome back. Today is the start of a new series, and that is kind of a series on different types of etiquette. I don't mean societal etiquette because I'm really not house trained and I'm really not people trained. It's just a few things that I have noticed in different areas that people perhaps don't seem to be approaching in a way that is helpful to them. And today we're going to be dealing with submissions. If you're choosing to get an agent or go to a traditional publisher, you really don't want to be messing up your submission. First impressions really do count, and your submission is your first impression that you're giving of yourself. So what I'm going to talk about are my golden rules of submission. This is how I went about submission, and this is how everyone who I know went about submission and goes about submission. So first and foremost, remember that these are people that you are submitting to and that they are very, very busy, and they will be reading your work in their spare time after they have read client work. So that's the first thing to remember and to keep in mind the entire time that you're submitting. Do not do a first draft and then send it out. Send your draft to beta readers, redraft it, perfect it until it is polished to a golden standard that you are absolutely 100% happy with. And then think about submitting it. You cannot be submitting your manuscript to publishers or to agents that do not deal with that genre. Agents will often tell you exactly the kind of fiction that they represent. On their Twitter or on an agency site, you will be able to see exactly what it is that they want to represent. Know who you're submitting to. Same with publishing houses. Make sure that you're submitting to a publisher that actually publishes what you write. Just make sure that you know what you're writing and where to submit it. Agents and publishers should really accept simultaneous submissions. You often have to state that it's a simultaneous submission, but that's just a matter of politeness and isn't a big deal. You know, it's easy to state this is a simultaneous submission. No one should be charging you anything to read your book. If they have a reading fee of any kind, they are a complete scam. You never pay anyone anything up front, ever. Ever, ever. So just make that clear. When you are submitting to your agents or publishers of choice, make sure that you are personalising your submissions, even if they are simultaneous. I already knew what agents I wanted to submit to, and I knew who they represented, and I knew the kind of work that they'd already sold, and I basically wrote to them as an author, writing the kind of thing that they already were interested in, but presented myself professionally. So I followed their guidelines to the letter. I kept everything short and concise and tried to be as professional as possible whilst being as much myself as possible. You want to get a flavour of who you are in your submission letter, but you do not want to have it waffly or state things like, I am the best author you will ever come across, this is the most amazing book. You should be able to say a couple of books that your book is like, or a couple of authors that you are like in your genre. One of the most vital things when publishers are considering offering for a book is where they can place it in a bookshop, where they can say to a bookshop, this is where you can put it on the shelf. Absolutely vital. It's vital. They ask for 5 pages, give them 5 pages. I mean, they don't mind if the natural break is on the 6th page or the 7th page, they're not going to complain. But don't send 50 pages when they've asked for 5. Don't send 100 pages when they've asked for 50. Be as precise as possible. So when you send out your submissions, they should not be grandiose. They should just be polite, professional, to the guidelines, and personalised. Rejection is part and parcel of being a creative of any kind. If you are going to try and become a full-time professional author, which is difficult, to say the least, or if you're going to do it as a secondary career like most of us do, you're going to have to get used to rejection. And that counts whether you have publishing credits to your name or not. So if you receive a form rejection, it is not personal. And what you should never, ever, ever do, ever, never get salty and write them a response like, oh, you don't know what you're missing out on, I'm going to be the next J.K. Rowling or whatever. Because more than likely as you're not, and everybody has to deal with rejection, even J.K. Rowling, and all you are doing is showing the people who you might have worked with in the future that you're really not the kind of person they ever want to work with. Agents and editors, they champion work that they love, and they have to love it in order to champion it. Always be working on your next book as you're submitting. There is no guarantee that the one that you've sent out there on submission is ever going to do anything. Even if you have an agent and your agent is submitting your novel to publishers, there is no guarantee that anyone is going to buy it. So you should always be focused on the next project. If you do manage to get a book published, but you have a book that was rejected that you still feel passionately should be published, and that your agent felt passionately about, there's always self-publishing. You can always be a hybrid author. Never ever reject the idea of hybridity. Essentially speaking, this whole thing is a profession. It's a profession. If you get paid for your work, if you get paid to write, you are professional. Simple as that. And you must act professionally. And if you are submitting your manuscript to an agent or to a publishing house, you are stating that you would like to be paid for that work, which means that you are stating that you would like to be a professional, which means you must be acting professionally right from the beginning. Agents don't get paid until they sell your work. That can sometimes be years, and you must understand that that is quite an extraordinary thing that they're doing for you there, because they're a professional, and they're a professional who's working for you for free until they manage to sell your work. And they're still advocating for you, and they're still fighting your corner. Agents might know that it's part and parcel of their job. You might know that it's part and parcel of an agent's job, but you should still respect it because it's quite the thing. I think, anyway, it is quite an extraordinary thing to say, part of my job is going to be to take on somebody's work and possibly work with them for years before I see any financial recompense for what I've done for them. That's quite something. Editors are not only the refiners and champions of your work, they're not only making sure that the publicity team is in place and that everything is as it should be and everything's on schedule. They're also juggling that with all the other authors that they're getting ready for publication. And just remember that that's what you're looking for. That's what you're sending your manuscript out there for. An advocate, someone who is going to be as passionate about your work as you are. And you want to approach that with the correct attitude. This is a difficult career to get into, and it's a difficult career to maintain, and most everybody is doing it alongside something else, and you have to be able to be prepared for rejection every step of the way, no matter how well you sell or no matter how well you do. There's always the possibility that something won't work for somebody. So hope that was helpful. And yeah, any questions, pop them down below. So there we go. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.